What's up? Welcome back to the booth here. My name's Riley, joined by Paul, of course, and just as Rich said, we're going to head down to the feature match area, see how things go. Players are getting seated and shuffling and getting ready, so we're not going to waste too much time. We're going to head down or there right here, right now, for Pro Tour Rivals of Ixalan. Let's see how things go in round number 14. Hello, my friends, and welcome to live continued coverage of Pro Tour Rivals of Ixalan. It's coming to you live from Bilbao, Spain. My name's Riley Knight, and I'm joined by Paul Humph Chion from Wizards R&D. A great pleasure to have him, great pleasure to have you, and it's a great pleasure to have these folks on your screen. Joining us in the feature match area, we have Yuchen Liu and Ken Yukuhiro. That is Yukuhiro on your screen, and this guy has brought an interesting one here, Paul. He's up against Yuchen Liu, who, as we said, is on Tron. But what are we looking at here from Ken Yukuhiro?
We're looking at Black, Red, Hollow One.
Hollow One.
Wow.
I mean, we've talked about cards that are begging to be broken in Modern. We've seen young Pyromancer put through the paces this weekend, but Hollow One, a recent addition to the Modern card pool, joining us in the Amonkhet block. And I tell you what, Yuchen Liu doesn't know what's going on. He's going to have to have a read of this little card here.
Adept.
Yeah, so essentially, as you can already certainly guess, this deck is all about cycling, all about discarding cards, principally discarding cards, using the constructed powerhouse, Paul, Goblin Lore.
Yeah, so what this deck is really looking to do is, you know, it functions kind of similarly to the Dredge deck. It's wanting to fill up its graveyard with a lot of cards that you can kind of bring back. You have cards like Flamewake Phoenix and Bloodghast, and then you can turbo out other things. You have cards like Gurmag Angler and Tassiger, which you can use to delve and get it out early because of all the cards like the Goblin Lore. And when you're discarding all these cards, guess what you can play for free?
Oh, yeah.
Hollow One.
Hollow One itself, the big boy. Yes, indeed.
And here we go, right off the bat. Burning Inquiry.
Yep, so here we go.
Time to discard at random.
We're going to have some good, clean fun here today with Magic, just like Richard Garfield intended.
Could be anything. Both players. Let's go.
So draw 3, discard 3, and once again, we're going to see these random discard effects. They're not going to be punished here, or at least Yukuhiro's not going to be punished by it, because most of the time, he's going to be discarding cards that enjoy being in the graveyard, and we can see things like Bloodghast, things like Flamewake Phoenix, whatever else. These are the cards in his deck. Now, obviously, this then goes on to mean that things like the creatures that he plays, Hollow One obviously becomes a lot cheaper here, but this Flameblade Adept becomes absolutely enormous in the face of cards like this.
And you know what? Ken Yukuhiro actually a bit unfortunate here because he had multiple copies of Bloodghast, but they're in his hand.
Just the unluckiest dude on the earth.
That is the game that you play when you play this deck. And Liu Yuchen, you know, he's playing Eldrazi Tron. It's a little bit harder to get Tron, but it looks like he drew that expedition map, so he will have access to turn 3 Urza Tron. He has Urza's Power Plant, Urza's Tower, and Urza's Mine, which on turn 3 gives him 7 mana to play with.
7 mana, and in hand for Yukuhiro critically as well, something to do with that mana in the form of Endbringer. This is going to be
also the one of.
Oh, the one of.
The one of. The one of, the fun of, Relic of Progenitus. He only has one in his entire deck. It was not discarded to that Burning Inquiry. And guess what? He's playing against a graveyard deck here.
The actual luckiest.
This is insane.
The actual luckiest. My goodness, here, Ken Yukuhiro has... yeah, he's in a rough spot here as we see a Faithless Looting is going to pump up this Flameblade Adept once again. What's he found here? Hollow One?
He's found a Hollow One, and now he can discard a couple of cards, and the Hollow One would cost 1 mana to play because it costs 2 less for every card that you discard.
And this is key here that Yukuhiro actually gets to choose what to discard. This is going to make a big difference here with Faithless Looting. We can play silly games all day with Goblin Lore and Burning Inquiry, but Faithless Looting is a very respectable Magic card. We see it do work in Mardu Pyromancer as well as here in Black Red Hollow One. And I mean, look, I don't think we've seen the best Hollow One deck yet. I don't think we've seen the deck in its final form. This could be it. Yukuhiro is certainly closer. He's 11 at 2 and 2 at a Pro Tour. But right now, I mean, he's in a tight spot. Endbringer, Relic of Progenitors as the one of, Paul.
The Relic, the one of Relic. It's just so huge here. Now, does Ken Yukuhiro have another way to maybe put a bunch of cards in his graveyard so that he can play the Hollow One for free? But it doesn't look like he does. And now, since he discarded 2 cards to that Faithless Looting, that gets in for 3 points of damage.
Bloodghast comes back.
Oh, and a flame, and he did not play the hollow one.
No, opted instead to play the Flameblade Adept there instead of the hollow one. We know the hollow one is very easy to cast for free off cards, things like Goblin Lore, but that's only assuming it remains in your hand after Goblin Lore has been cast.
Right. Let's take a look at what Lu Yuchen is working with here. He's got multiple copies of Sanctum of Ugin, but it only triggers if you play a colorless spell that costs 7 or more, so it would not trigger off that other Endbringer in hand, but at the end of the day, he's got another Endbringer in hand.
Yeah, the end is about to be brought here. Lu is, I would say, comfortably ahead here of Yukuhiro. I mean, at the end of the day, this guy is going to be able to power out enormous big blockers, enormous big haymakers. And Yukuhiro is not looking at a hand that's particularly well set up to tussle with enormous big beaters.
Yeah. At the same time, those Flameblade Adepts could be very dangerous. I mean, he's playing the cards for a reason, and he has that deck does have the ability to kind of pump in for a lot of damage, and it looks like Lu's trying to be a little bit defensive here. Of course, taking a look at Endbringer here, it untaps on both players' turns, so he chose to use the ping ability, tap to deal 1 damage to target creature or player, because next turn he can actually use it for defense as well.
Also handily getting rid of that 2-1 there. The Bloodghast has hit the Exile Zone thanks to the Relic of Progenitus, so this means that it won't be coming back for an encore performance just yet. Yukuhiro draws 2 copies of Goblin Lore in hand and spin the wheel. Here we go. Draw 4, discard 3. Simple as that. I mean, it doesn't get much better than this, Paul. Drawing 4 cards for 2 mana?
Yeah, why did he already randomize those cards? He has to draw the 4 cards first.
He's loving it. I tell you what, Ken Yukuhiro is just, he's been rolling dice and spinning wheels all weekend, and he's been doing so well with it as well.
Yeah, and when you look at cards like both the Goblin Lore and the Burning Inquiry, both of those cards make you discard 3 cards, meaning that if you have any copies of Hollow One in your hand, you get to play for free. But he discarded the Hollow One.
No.
It's almost like there might be... I mean, he is playing a lot of cards with the word random on them.
Yeah.
So this can randomly happen.
Yeah, this does randomly happen, and Yukuhiro has to eat it once again. However, these guys are huge right now. These Flameblade Adepts are just enormous, getting in... well, one of them at least is getting in for a big chunk of damage.
This is a good amount of damage here. So now he played the Goblin Lore, discarded 3 cards, and cycled the Street Wraith, which means that Flameblade Adept is getting in for 5 points of damage.
And now Bloodstained Maya.
Oh, and that Street Wraith was very nice here because now he can actually play a Gurmag Angler as well and delve away all the cards in his graveyard if he chooses.
That's very tidy because that, of course, is perfectly sized to tussle with those Endbringers, all of them 5/5s. And you can see in hand cards like Flamewake Phoenix. Haven't seen a lot of this guy for a while, but it's poised to make something of a comeback here.
This is crazy. Ken is like putting up a pretty good fight despite... You know, discarding some cards he might not have wanted to, and Lu Yuchen drawing his 1 of Relic of Progenitus and putting multiple copies of Endbringer on the battlefield.
So Matter Reshaper in hand. Chalice of the Void has joined it here for Lu Yuchen here.
And I think Chalice for 1 makes a lot of sense in this matchup. You did see there is Faithless Looting, there's Burning Inquiry, there's Lightning Bolt, so there's 12 good targets, along with 4 copies of Flameblade Adept as well.
Yeah, I mean, 2 of them already out, so not necessarily going to snag too many more of them, Paul, but I see what you mean. It's a great inclusion. And this is one of the draws towards Eldrazi Tron, right? Traditional Tron lists don't play the Relic. They play Expedition Map, and they play, the Sylvan Scryings and the Chromatic Spheres and Stars and what have you. Lu Yuchen is in a great position to leverage Chalice for 1, for 2, backbreaking against a lot of the format.
Definitely.
Chalice for 2 against burn decks usually knocks them out stone cold dead. Chalice for 1 against Grixis is a very, very hugely strong play.
One reasonable thing I can see Lu Yuchen actually do... Oh, whoa, that's a reality smash.
That's a reality smash. It's just the quiet old 5/5 once again. This one's got Trample on Haste.
Yeah, I can see him attack with this maybe.
And a Chalice as well now coming down 4/1.
There is that Chalice for 1. So now if he wants to play very defensively because he has the inevitability in the Endbringers, he can use both of them to shoot down one of the Flameblade Adepts if he wants, because the only card Ken Yukuhiro can have to... No, there's actually no cards he could have to actually save them, as Street Wraith would only pump the power. So yeah, Ken is in a really, really rough spot, and Lu playing as defensively as possible here.
Yeah, and he's conserving his life total. He knows that he's got the long game wrapped up as another copy of God.
Right, here
it just never stops being fun.
I mean, this just makes the game exciting. Here we go. Discarding 3 cards at random off this Goblin Lore.
So, Ken Yukuhiro and
Sufficiently randomizing the hand.
Yes, indeed. And this is the way they're choosing to deal with it here. Effectively, you could roll a die, you could do whatever you like here, really, as long. But this is effectively random. Yuchen doesn't know what the cards are. He's just picking them at random.
Okay, so he found a hollow one and he discarded a Flamewake Phoenix. So that is pretty reasonable here, but it's still going to be difficult to fight through those Endbringers.
So hollow one comes down for free. It comes down for free now because 3 cards have been discarded. It costs, 0. Doesn't net him a mana, unfortunately. But that means the Flamewake Phoenix can also come back from the bin as Ferocious Will. Well, it's already enabled, of course, with the Zombie Fish. But this empty boy here is also going to be able to help the Phoenix come back again.
And Ken currently with just a hollow one and a Collective Brutality. Brutality not really at its best in this matchup as the Eldrazi Tron plays very few spells.
Yeah, it's a bit of a stinker here, as I'm sure you'll agree.
But if Ken can somehow find a way to get in for 6 points of damage against Liu Yuchen, he could use that Collective Brutality as a way to finish the game here.
Well, Flamewake Phoenix now, coming back from the bin. Of course, has haste.
Yeah.
Forks the Phoenix, going to dip down into the Chamber of Secrets and see what he can do about it.
So what does Liu Yuchen want to do? Does he want to just take the 2 points of damage here and perhaps shoot down the Adept? He could do that, keep the Reality Smasher maybe back to trade with the Hollow One here if he wants. He could also use the Endbringer to make the creatures unable to attack. That is also an option.
Now, the Adept is huge. The Adept is...
how many cards has been discarded? 3?
3 cards so far.
So it's a 4-2 currently.
It's a big boy.
Yeah, it's a 4-2. Currently, Liu Yuchen's creatures, they fight pretty well here. But of course, Ken Yukuhiro might have a Street Wraith to give it an additional power. Oh, it does have Menace, though. So it means that Liu Yuchen would have to double block. But Ken opting not to attack here, which signals that he likely does not have that Street Wraith.
And Reality Smasher on defense. This is not something we see very often. The only reality being smashed right now is that
Liu Yuchen decides to take 2 damage here, which tells me that he's likely wants to draw some cards with this Endbringer. Or no, he's going to just take that down instead.
All right.
Interesting that he went for that instead of just trying to preserve his life total with the Phoenix.
So Hollow One joins the fray for free, of course.
Oh, that was a nice one.
What's he found off the top here, Paul?
I believe that this may have been a Walking Ballista.
Oh, dear. Okay, well.
And Walking Ballista with that Sanctum of Ugin allows him to go search for another large, expensive threat to try to end the game. And the Walking Ballista is going to be gigantic.
It's going to be huge.
You need to cast it for at least 8 here to be able to trigger that Sanctum of Ugin. And now we're getting aggressive.
Both of these Endbringers going to hustle and bustle. Get in for 10 now for Yukuhiro. This means Yuchen just has the Fireball in hand, right?
3, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10. So he can deal 5 points of damage, which is not quite... Oh, no, he can deal 5 points of damage to Ken, untap the Endbringers, and that's 7 damage.
Yeah, he's going to get him right here, right now. Check this out. Endbringers, 5 to you upstairs. Yep. Fireball you out, and then 2 to the Endbringers also, and simple as that. Game number 1 goes to Liu Yuchen. Ken Yukuhiro with one of the weirdest decks you're ever going to see. Unfortunately, has gone down to the bad guys, Eldrazi Tron. Tron has put up a magnificent performance this weekend, and the hits continue now with Liu Yuchen. Well done to him snagging game number 1, of course. These guys are going to hit the sideboards, and we're going to be back before much longer to see how things pan out. We've got to go to a break. Stick with us, however. On the other side of this, more Modern coming your way from Pro Tour, Rivals of Ixalan.
Looking for a place to hang out and play Magic? Head to your local game store this and every Friday to play Friday Night Magic events. Get more info at magic.wizards.com/FNM.
Welcome back to the feature match area here in Bilbao, Spain. We are live at Pro Tour Rivals of Ixalan. My name's Riley Knight, and I'm joined, of course, by my good friend Paul Cheon from Wizards R&D. Great pleasure to have him along. On the back tables, before we get stuck in with our original match, we can give you some updates from around the traps. I can tell you now, Andrea Mangucci, he'll be very happy there. Look at him, the little Italian stallion. The Gucciest of men got up 2-0. 5-color humans beating out Traverse, Shadow in the hands of Andrew Beckstrom. Pascal Vieren continues his monstrous run towards the top 8 here with a Game 1 win against Jean-Emmanuel Depraz. And Luis Salvato managed to get up a game against John Stern on Burn. Stern got him down to 1 life. But after a timely recovery with Inventor's Fair, Witchbane, Orb, etc., it was all over Red Rover for John Stern, the Canadian, hitting the sideboard. But right now, we are on table A. Lu Yuchen and Ken Yukuhiro, of course. Lu getting up in game number 1, Tron finishing things off very, very comfortably, you would say, with a couple of Endbringers. But once again, Paul Cheon, we are looking at one of the weirdest decks in the format, Black-Red Hollow 1. You were saying you quite like the sideboard plan that Yukuhiro will doubtless enact. Yeah,
just taking a look at the sideboard, I see a couple of copies of Ancient Grudge, a few copies of Big Game Hunter, and Blood Moon. I expect all those cards to be sideboarded in, and it's a really clean swap. You're going to take out your Lightning Bolts. You're going to take out 2 copies of Collective Brutality, and that's a 6-for-6 swap. Really like that. It just tells me that Ken and the rest of Team Musashi really put a lot of work into kind of their sideboard plans.
Yeah, this deck is not one that transitions or pivots particularly well post-board. It's looking to shore up weaknesses, gain small edges where it can. And I tell you what, some of the cards, as you mentioned, that it's going to bring in, especially Big Game Hunter, poised to do a lot of work here.
Yeah. I mean, we just saw the Endbringer just kind of take over that game, but it's also very I mean, it seems like it was prime for this matchup, right?
Yeah.
It's the card that will deal with both the Reality Smasher, Thought-Knot Seer, and the Endbringers that are all in Lu Yuchen's deck.
Well, look at this. Here we go. Ken Yukuhiro not wasting any time. Spin the wheel. Let's see what's inside the suitcase, Andrew, and check things out now.
Are we going to see
Burning Inquiry?
A triple hollow one, turn 1?
That could happen. That could happen. And what I was saying to you in the break there, Paul, what I really love about Burning Inquiry is sometimes your opponent keeps 3 lands, 4 spells, and you just make them discard everything they need.
Yeah, well, what if Ken just takes 3 of Lu's just Tron lands? Oh, he took the Grafdigger's Cage.
Grafdigger's Cage, a great hit here in addition to the Reality Smasher and the Matter Reshaper. Looks like Ken Yukuhiro's hand is looking pretty well unscathed here as he got a big play to follow it up with. No, he does not. Okay, back over to Chen now. That could have been the turn 1 hollow one. That's what's going on.
It could have, but it doesn't look like Lu Yuchen has one of his multiple sideboard Grafdigger's Cage / Relic of Progenitus that he boarded in.
Oh, how about a turn 2 Tasiga?
Turn 2 Tasiga is big.
Oh, hang on, my phone's ringing. It's 2016. They want their modern start back. But Tasiga is going to eat it to a Dismember. Yuchen not looking to tussle with the Banana King. Back over to him now. And look at this, 2 Tron lands by turn 2.
There we go. But there's a turn 3 Blood Moon.
Oh, no!
And this is exactly the type of deck where I really do like the Blood Moon, because the Black-Red Hollow 1 deck puts on a lot of pressure.
Natural Tron through a Burning Inquiry.
Wow.
Oh, the salt. The salt is
That's got to feel so bad. And many decks, like the typical Tron decks with green mana, have access to cards like Nature's Claim or even Oblivion Stone to deal with the Blood Moon. But I do not think Yuchen Liu actually has an answer to this Blood Moon.
Yukuhiro is beating down like you wouldn't believe.
Look at this transformational mono. No, actually, this is all in the main deck.
No, he's not. He's on that beatdown plan well and truly. Lu Yuchen.
Oh, and he's got that Thought-Knot Seer. He can't play it. Requires colorless mana. He needs a wastes.
He can only make red mana here. Yuchen Liu paying the highest of prices as we see a Street Wraith cycled away.
Oh,
Yukuhiro,
and he finds a swamp.
He's going to have to be... he's so far ahead here. It's unbelievable. What a bonkers start here for the Japanese player.
Look at this. He cycled into that swamp. Now he can play a 5/5 Gurmag Angler.
Just as simple as that. Oh, my goodness. We said this was magic as Richard Garfield intended. Your Tron player locked out of the game as you slam and jam Ken Yukuhiro. What a victory for him, Paul Cheon. And you can see, look at that, absolutely ecstatic after that performance. He can't believe, there he goes, a big smile. Good on you, Ken, my lad.
Gotcha.
Oh, dear. So what was so amazing about that match there is even after the Burning Inquiry, we still had the Tron player, 1, 2, 3 Tron lands on turn 3, not a worry. But Blood Moon here was key. And Paul, you identified before in these blue-red control decks, Blood Moon is not something you're interested in. What's changed here? Why do you like it in Yukuhiro's deck?
Well, in Yukuhiro's deck, he's just a far more aggressively slanted deck. You have a bunch of cards that you can just put into the battlefield, put a lot of pressure on, and I like having Blood Moon as an option when you're putting pressure on your opponent.
Oh dear, say it ain't so. Luis Salvato, Lantern Control, makes an appearance in the feature match area, ladies and gentlemen. Look, I'm throwing a fair bit of shade at this deck, but I tell you what, it is a real and very, very worthy deck. And I tell you what, you have to be ready to come and beat it here, because this deck is here to stay in Modern. John Stern looking to get things off very, very quickly here with a Goblin Guide kicking things off.
And did he keep a one-lander? And I think he might have found that land.
So Salvato has kept a 0 land hand. Tim Willoughby on the floor, the man with all the facts. He's told us exactly what's up here. Salvato with a rather greedy keep, you would say. Let's see if he can find the pieces.
He's like, please land, and he hit it!
He got it! Goblin Guide. Oh, MVP for Salvato right now. Still dinging him down to 16, so it's not all over. I would like to apologise to Lantern players around the world for being a little bit of a jerk about their deck there. I do like the deck. I know it's not a fan favourite for many of you, but it is something that, again, the Modern format has recently been quite dominated by.
It's probably one of the most polarising decks in the format.
Yeah.
You got those die-hard Lantern fans, you got your Rich Hagons out there, but at the same time, you have a lot of players who, maybe wants to attack with creatures every now and then, and Lantern's very good at stopping that.
Prison decks are an interesting sort of factor in Magic generally, in that they do tend to be so divisive, and that's exactly what we call it Lantern Control, but it is at its core a prison deck. It plays Ensnaring Bridge. It plays a number of ways to prevent opponents from playing a normal game of Magic. I think they play something else. I don't know what the game that they're playing is. It's like Magic adjacent, Paul.
Right. And now Luis Salvato has a fairly awkward start here. He has access to 2 mana, but he cannot play that Whir of Invention, as he only has access to 2 blue mana. And he has an Ensnaring Bridge, but he has, again, those 2 copies of Word of Invention, meaning that these Goblin Guides can still attack through the bridge, even if Luis Salvato finds that 3rd land to play the bridge. So this is going to be pretty difficult here.
He's not cracking his baubles here as well. He needs at least 2 of them to keep that Mox Opal online, of course, for Metalcraft. An awkward hand for Salvato. Well, It was a 0 lander, so I mean, they don't come more awkward than that, to be honest. Back over to Stern now as he untaps. 2 Rift Bolts being fired upstairs. Salvato, no answer to them. Nice.
And this is traditionally a fairly bad matchup for the Lantern Control deck, as a burn deck just has a lot of redundancy, a lot of pressure, and there are just a lot of times where by the time you kind of get down to 0 cards with Ensnaring Bridge, you've just taken already a ton of damage from the creatures that the burn spells oftentimes just end up getting you. But with the addition of Whir of Invention, this deck has more of a chance, because you can Whir of Invention for a very, very potent bullet card in Witchbane Orb. Yeah,
and this is what we're going to see here from Salvato if he has the time to do it. He's just drawn a Botanical Sanctum off the Goblin Guide. I didn't realize he was actually the luckiest man on Earth. 2 Goblin Guide hits in a row. What's going on here?
Can't do that.
Back it up, Luis there, old son, old boy. Can't quite do that one there. So Salvato taps his Glimmer Void, reveals his Whir of Invention.
Yeah. I got this one.
And now it's back over to him here. Botanical Sanctum drawn from the Goblin Guide, so he is going to be able to continue to deploy lands. But I mean, what can he do here with these Whir Inventions?
He doesn't quite have enough here. So now he can use the Whir of Invention to get an Ensnaring Bridge, which really doesn't do a whole lot. What he can do, if he drew a 0 mana artifact, was Whir of Invention for Witchbane Orb, which would basically invalidate many of John's burn spells. But it's not what he found, and John currently just kind of sitting on just 2 lands, the perfect thing for burn players to do, right?
Yep.
If you draw 3 or 4 lands, you're likely going to win. If you don't, you're likely going to lose. That's just kind of the way the burn deck functions.
And one of the reasons it does have a good matchup again against Control is, Lantern Control is that redundancy we talked about. Often Lantern Control attempts to mill away, the abrupt decays of the format, the hard to answer answers there. But Stern is just playing a deck with 40 lightning bolts essentially. All of the cards in Stern's deck look to do between 3 and 4 points of damage consistently, and that is just about all you need to do, really.
Yeah, Luis Salvato really just wants to empty out his hand as quickly as possible, but he just has a few too many 3-drops in his hand.
Yep, he can whir here now for 2. He's got an Ensnaring Bridge in hand, but even that does nothing in the face of the old Goblin Guide here.
Yeah, and he can also choose to just play the Pyrite Spellbomb here to get that Goblin Guide off the board if he wants, and try to preserve his life total, at least from the Goblin Guide, because I think by the time he gets that Ensnaring Bridge down, that Goblin Guide's going to get in for at least 6 more points of damage. So he might want to preserve his life total that way.
Salvado looks to be slowing things down a little bit as he makes his mind up. So with that in mind, we may as well head back to our first table here. Lou and Yukuhiro ready to go out for game number 3. Oh, we do see an end there. Salvado realizing the writing's on the wall. These guys also going to go to game 3. So let's check in now with our original table. Yuchen Lou facing off against Ken Yukuhiro. These guys are ready to get stuck in with game number 3. So let's begin. These guys hit their sideboard for the second time. I mean, we talked about the Hollow One deck sideboard. Is there anything that you're looking at from Tron that's going to make a difference? How about a Relic of Progenitus?
Yeah, so the Tron deck, Yuchen Liu has access to a lot of good sideboard hate in the form of graveyard hate. He's got 2 extra copies of Relic of Progenitus and 2 extra copies of Grafdigger's Cage. That means he has a total of 5 anti-graveyard cards, along with cards like Warping Wail, which could also be reasonable because it does counter those important sorceries like Goblin Lore and Burning Inquiry.
Yes, of course, as we all know, Paulo Vita Damarosa famously brought in his Warping Wails once to counter Supreme Verdict. Didn't work out as he'd hoped, but the fact that it can counter sorceries, a weird card, Warping Wail, but it has a lot of utility. Something I want to touch upon a little bit here, Paul, is just how much utility, how many effects this colorless deck can generate. It can tussle with graveyard decks. It has great removal with Dismember. Even though it can't generate any colored mana, it can still attack across the format.
This is really interesting. Yuchen Liu has a Warping Wail in hand. He might be tempted to get that Adept, but Ken Yukuhiro has a Street Wraith to counter that because Warping Wail can exile creature with power 1.
Oh, no!
Right?
He missed it. He could have cycled the Street Wraith to save it.
Couldn't he have cycled it to protect it?
Unless that was a deliberate choice not playing into the Relic there.
Maybe.
Oh, no, but it exiles it. I mean, this is, oh dear.
Okay. So maybe he was keeping the Street Wraith in hand because he wanted to play the Hollow One.
Okay, that would explain the line here as we see now Street Wraith hit the bin. The discard count is at 1. Oh, Goblin Lore.
Here we go, and he's got a Hollow One in his hand.
So, are we going to have Grandmother Goblin sit down and tell us all a story?
There's also the Burning Inquiry, too. He could choose to go for Burning Inquiry because he has a Gurmag Angler in hand. All right, Goblin Lore time.
Come,
let's
children.
Go.
Let me tell you. Let me tell you of our people, she says.
Please don't hit the Hollow One. That's what Ken's saying to himself.
Okay, in response.
Not the Hollow One.
In response, exile that Street Wraith. So, let's have a look here. Draw 4, discard 3. Lou
Pick 3, any 3.
1, 2, and 3 cards effectively picked at random here.
No Hollow One. He can play a Hollow One this turn.
All right.
Oh, he found
he's got a second Hollow One off the top of the Goblin Lore. Oh, easy game. Look at this. Ken Yukuhiro going off through a Relic of Progenitus. Lou Yuchen absolutely on the ropes now after this huge swing here from Ken Yukuhiro. It's as simple as that. Goblin Lore, best card in Magic. No one's going to be able to dispute that. 2 free 4/4s. Oh, my goodness me. Back to Yuchen now. What's he going to do to get himself out of this?
And I can see it. One reason to play a deck like this over something like Dredge is you're more resilient to the graveyard hate. You're playing cards like the Hollow One. You can just hard cast a bunch of Bloodghast and Flamewake Phoenixes and get people that way as well.
Yukuhiro, after a phenomenal turn 2, Dismember is going to eat up one of them. But that's going to cost Yuchen 4 life, and that's not cheap. That's a steep price to pay.
All right, and time to cycle here.
So, Relic of Progenitus now comes down an expedition map after that Relic exiles Yukuhiro's graveyard. He ain't worried about that, though.
It's time to be aggressive here. It looks like he's going to choose not to play a Flamewake Phoenix and instead...
Yep, so
just play out a bunch of creatures.
Just dump it out. We're on the old aggro plan. Slam and jam here. Ken Yukuhiro
and Lou Yuchen
taking it over the top.
With 2 Urza's power plants on the battlefield, so he's not close to Tron yet.
He's miles away from Tron.
Right. He might use this expedition map to get a Tron land and then hope to draw the final piece because I don't think he has another Tron land in hand because, of course, if he did, he would have probably played it on the previous turn.
So Yuchen, he's looking at those. He's looking at those power plants. It's on the top of a mountain, a mile away from him. He's typing the directions into Google Maps. He's got no idea how to find this mine or this power plant.
And Ken Yukuhiro without any ways to actually discard cards, but he can just hard cast the Flamewake Phoenix next turn, and that means he's going to be getting in for 9 points of damage.
Just like that.
Just scrapping, just grinding his creatures through. This is.
You can call him a vegetable seller.
It's like, what did you lose?
Freshest
I mean,
beets
I
here.
lost to like a bad draft card, and then you know,
And some obscure rare that I've never played against. And Flamewake Phoenix, and look at this, slamming straight into the red zone, Liu
and Ken
Yuchen.
Yukuhiro also found a Blood Moon, but because Liu Yuchen is only on only has one Tron land on the board, he doesn't even have to play it until the next turn.
No, he's not worried. He's not worried. 4 mana here now for Yuchen. What can Liu find here? Is that a Thought Knot Seer in hand for him? He's got a Walking Ballista and a Matter Reshaper.
No, it looks like it's just a Matter Reshaper, so I think he's just going to go get a Tron land. Oh, no.
Eldrazi.
Okay.
Eldrazi Temple.
So maybe he does have a Thought Knots here in hand.
Eldrazi Temple is going.
Oh, he does have a Thought. He has 3 cards in hand. Okay, so he has the Reshaper, Thought Knots here, and Walking Ballista.
Looks like the Walking Ballista is going to be the play here. Walking Ballista for 1. Doesn't do a huge amount on this battlefield.
So going
I think
for
it's fair
the
to
block
say.
sack probably to preserve his life total. He can block the hollow one and then deal 1 damage to the Blood Gas, which would then put Liu Yuchen down to 2. But now there's a Blood Moon.
Blood Moon off the top here for Ken Yukuhiro in a difficult position for Liu Yuchen.
How is he going to stop that Flamewake Phoenix? He can't.
No cards in hand that enable him to do this. Endbringer, the draw here for him. But Ken Yukuhiro with what looks to be a very handy victory. One of, again, I'll say it for a third time, one of the weirdest decks you're likely to see. And Ken Yukuhiro snaps off the handshake.
Gosh.
Big smile on his face. He has crushed his foe here in
That's
this
how you
very
top 8 Pro
deciding
Tours.
third.
That's how you top 8
do it.
Pro Tours. You play that Goblin Lore, you draw 2 copies of Hollow One, boom, put it on the battlefield, turn 2.
GG easy here for Ken Yukuhiro. A hard-fought victory for him, I think it's fair to say. And I tell you what, he's going to be very, very happy to have run so hot all the way towards the top 8 of Pro Tour Rivals of Ixalan. It's great to have you all along as we explore this modern format. My name's Riley Knight, joined, of course, by Paul Cheon. We'd like to thank you for spending your weekend with us here in Bilbao, Spain. It's been our very great pleasure to do it with you so far, and we're hoping to bring you so much more action throughout the weekend. Let's head back to our back table here. Woo. John Stern on Burn and Luis Salvato on Lantern Control. Double ensnaring bridge, keeping things back.
This is a much better board position for Salvato. He's got the ensnaring bridges in play and the Leyline of Sanctity, so he is immune to... He can't get burned out here.
But the biggest problem for him here, of course, is the Eidolon of the Great Revel.
Oh,
guy,
that was great. I don't know if you just saw that, but he attacked with a Monastery Swift Spear because Luis Salvato had 1 card in hand, and then played Boros Charm to give his Monastery Swift Spear double strike, which means he got to get in for 4. And Luis Salvato, despite having the ensnaring bridge and a Leyline of Sanctity in play, needs to find a way to deal with that Eidolon of the Great Revel.
Yeah. This Pyrostatic Pillar on legs is going to be a huge thorn in the side of Salvato. He needs to empty out his hand. This Monastery
What is
Swift
that
Spear.
last card in hand? Why can't he play it?
Helix myself.
And a Lightning Helix. John Stern just Lightning Helixed himself, ladies and gentlemen.
Which means he's going to gain 1 because he has Eidolon in play, but that's going to be able to get him to deal an additional point of...
And he does it again! He's pointing right at himself here again. You are not going to see plays like this ever, ladies and gentlemen. And all of a sudden, John Stern has put a real clock on Salvato. He doesn't care about his
that
life
was
total.
a fantastic draw, though, from Luis Salvato. He found a Collective Brutality, allowing him to discard a card. He's going to be able to kill the Eidolon of the Great Revel and also gain 2 life.
So this is a clean answer here to the Eidolon. It's not going to cost him any life once the dust is settled.
So is he going down to 1 here off the cast, or is he? Did we already take 2?
No, he's down to 1.
Oh, okay. So he's down to 1, and he's going to go back up to 3, most likely. Get that Eidolon off the board.
And critically, his hand is now empty. Collective Brutality, an absolute workhorse card against burn decks around the world.
All right. Does John Stern have a way to deal damage to Luis without actually targeting him?
So, Luis Salvato, sitting pretty behind a Leyline of Sanctity. He's got 2 ensnaring bridges.
Oh my goodness, he's at 3 life. Now, Luis Salvato has an active Academy Ruins on the battlefield, so I imagine with that Codex Shredder in play, he can continue using it on himself. Another thing is if he's really afraid of some random burn spell, he can use that Codex Shredder to get back that Collective Brutality in his graveyard and use it to gain some more life.
And that's what we're going to see happen right here and right now, Paul. A great spot from you there, because this Collective Brutality really, I mean, casting 1 against a burn deck often gets there. 2 is backbreaking. breaking, and I don't see a way out here for John Stern. He has to string something very, very special together if he's going to hope to get ahead in this match.
So Luis Salvato is going to cast this to drain John Stern down to 1 life, because John is at 3, and he's going to use the other option, which I believe he's going to use to kind of strip a card out of John Stern's hand. He just wants maximum information here, I believe.
He doesn't need to worry about those creatures. He's got double ensnaring bridge. He can just go upstairs. Lightning Helix now.
And now John Stern sees that Luis Salvato's plan here is to buy back Codex Shredder and then use the Codex Shredder to buy back Collective Brutality to finish off John Stern. And because John Stern can't deal with that Leyline of Sanctity in play, he used the Lightning Helix on his own creature to gain 3 life.
Gain 3 life, because he was going to be burnt out by his Lantern Control opponent.
Oh, this is insanity.
Oh my goodness, this is why we have the Pro Tour, ladies and gentlemen. Moments like this, Luis Salvato flipping the script on
Codex
his burn player here.
Codex Shredder into Get Back Brutality for the win. Is this what we're going to see?
Luis Salvato grinding out a burn win with Lantern Control. You said it wasn't possible, my friends, but here we have it. Looks like Stern's flooding out a bit as well. Codex Shredder, Get Back Collective Brutality. What an engine this is.
Oh my.
Brutality U, drain you for 2. Have a look at your hand. Away goes a Rift Bolt.
Now
and
Luis Salvato's at 7. This is going to be the game. I don't think John Stern has a way out of this.
John Stern is going to be burnt out by his opponent on Lantern Control, ladies and gentlemen. This is a huge moment in the history of this game that we all love. You have never seen
all you Lantern players
anything like this.
That just, are always complaining about how bad the burn matchup is. This is a little bit of redemption for all of you.
This is how
Luis
it works.
Salvato is burning out his burn opponent with Lantern Control.
Codex Shredder off the top, thanks to the Academy Ruins. Shred, get back the Collective Brutality. John Stern on 2 life. Collective Brutality, drain you for 2. And Luis Salvato burns his opponent out with Lantern Control. He can't believe it.
Nice.
Paul Cheon can't believe it. I can't believe it. My goodness me. What a round of Magic we have seen. Goblin Lore, Burn Lantern. It has been incredible. The action continues here at Pro Tour Rivals of Ixalan. John Stern can't believe the way that things shook out there. But for those of you talking around the world about Lantern Control being a one-sided deck, look at that aggro plan, Paul.
Right, now Lantern Control with a transformational burn plan out of the sideboard.
We are going to have plenty more action coming your way here from Bilbao, Spain, as we welcome you back to the booth. We've got a deck tech coming up. You're not going to want to miss that, ladies and gentlemen. You're not going to want to miss an inch of the action we're bringing you here from Pro Tour Rivals of Ixalan. Paul, it's been a roller coaster ride off the couple over the last couple of rounds. I'm going to step out of the booth and get some rest. We're going to go to a break, but of course, more action coming your way, and you are not going to want to miss it. Thanks for hanging out with me, Paul. Thanks for hanging out with me around the world. We'll see you back here in Spain before very much longer. After this break, we'll be back at Pro Tour Rivals of Ixalan.
Welcome back to Pro Tour Rivals of Ixalan. We're closing in on the end of round 14. Now, about this time yesterday, round about the end of round 5, round 6, we were talking about the leaderboard and saying how it looked like there were an awful lot of players that we didn't know a lot about, had had fantastic drafts, 3-0 those, came out of the gate strong in Modern. But if you look just below the 5-0 and the 6-0 and started looking at the 4-1 and the 5-1 and the 4-1-1s, well, that kind of looked more like a traditional Pro Tour with Hall of Famers and Platinum Pros and top 25 ranked players. Well, as we head down the stretch, looking at the top tables, that kind of, I guess the natural order, if you will, looks to being firmly restored. Let me tell you what I mean. Here are the top 8 tables. So this round we've seen Pascal Viren defeat Jean-Emmanuel Depraz of France. Now, Depraz, 11-3, he's still in there. But Pascal Viren, undefeated, 12 wins, no losses, 2 draws. He is in your top 8. Congratulations to him. Phenomenal performance. Still in with a chance of an undefeated Pro Tour. Incredible stuff. So he's in. Table 2, Ken Yukuhiro defeated Yuchen. We watched that happen. The Chinese player is still alive at 11-3. He had the loss to give. Ken Yukuhiro, listening to our coverage friends from Japan, huge round of applause from backstage. I think we'll accept the math that means that at 12-2, Ken Yukuhiro will find a way to be in over the next couple of rounds. Certainly with a single point from an intentional draw, he'll be in. Now, table 3, Lucas Esperberto, former Pro Tour champion, 11-2-1. Not in yet, but certainly now he needs 1 win to do so. Michael Lagamba, that probably ends his run at 10-4. Next up, table 4, Javier Dominguez, 11-3 over the overnight leader, Adriano Moscato. Now, if anyone is going to get in at 12-4, Moscato, of course, will have great tie breaks, but that could be the end of the line for the overnight leader. Javier Dominguez, finalist from Worlds, is battling with 1 more win we think needed to then potentially intentionally draw in the last round. Also 11-3, Luis Salvato of Argentina. Also 11-3, Jun Haute, Singapore, 11-3. Corey Burkhart is 11-3. Wait a second. That Corey Burkhart, how about a debt tech?